While vaccine hesitancy remains high in the country, let's get the take of Social Weather Station's President, Mahar Mangahas. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mangahas. Of course, in your survey, 1/3 of our kababayans want to get vaccinated, 1/3 do not want, and 1/3 are still unsure. Do you think with President Rodrigo Duterte's pronouncements yesterday that those refusing COVID-19 vaccinations may be arrested, do you think this could improve the vaccination rates?
I don't think there's a problem with the vaccination rate because the supply of vaccines is so low. Even those 1/3, that's 33 million people, you know. You don't have that many vaccines at all. At some point, it's the limited supply which is going to be the problem, not the demand. So, and there's a lot of time still to figure out where the vaccines will come from. So in the meantime, why should you make the problem worse by being dictatorial about it? As it is, you have more than enough than you can handle. The problem is the supply.
You talk about limited supply, Mr. Mangahas.
Yes.
We're seeing a deluge, though, of these Sinovac vaccines coming into the
That's not a
country.
deluge.
Are
No.
Filipinos brand conscious?
Until I see, until I see signs of 30 million coming in, and we need 100 million, huh?
Right.
But we're not at that 30 million yet.
But
So get that supply first, right? Because at any moment, that 1/3 who say they're not sure, they can jump on board, and then you'll have 2/3, and even and then it's going to be worse. So why should you put us into a dictatorial situation? That's what's worrying me more. I'm worried more about that than about the vaccines.
so the brand does not really matter
Well,
to Filipinos?
the brand matters. People prefer American. All right. They say actually there's a very big distrust of China in general, and yet there are still 19% who say they would like Sinovac. So I think at the same time that the country origin is not clear either. When you give them the brand, they don't really know where it comes from anyway. Most people don't know.
But on the other hand, Mr. Mangahas, over the past couple of days, we're seeing some local government units, particularly here in LGUs, who tried to impose a scheduling, a schedule, an appointment schedule, and nobody showed up. But when it was opened up without the scheduling issues to get vaccinated, we saw a lot more Filipinos getting themselves immunized. Are we seeing here now
They are there.
less vaccine
they are there
hesitancy?
already. You don't have to, even from what we obtained in our survey, that's so many millions. That's going to flood already your supply and exhaust it right away. If you only have that supply there, ubus yan agad. So the thing to do is to get more supply and try to get ahead of the demand, because right now that demand is just waiting there to rush in.
And you've also conducted, presidential surveys. I mean, the presidential and general elections is less than a year away. Mr. Mangahas, are our kababayans concerned how the next president will handle the pandemic response, or they're not concerned at all?
I don't know. One thing we're sure is that Filipinos are very afraid of viruses. We've seen that since 2003. All the previous viruses have instilled so much fear, and this COVID-19 is even more fearful than those viruses over there. So we know that. You should have expected that. Now, secondly, unfortunately, we Filipinos are predisposed to distrust science. And we know that from cross-country surveys where we can compare Filipinos to other nationalities, and unfortunately we are almost the only nation that that feels that modern science does more harm than good. Most countries deny that.
So,
But we have 48% who think that that's true. So we're very worried about these things. So you have to, give assurance, give extra assurance to the Filipino people.
the
But if they're assured,
Mr. Mangahas, of the Dengvaxia vaccine has really had an impact on our kababayans. That's why.
well, of course, that made it worse. Yeah, because what I am, the data I'm talking about is even before Dengvaxia. This is not. This is not only about Dengvaxia. This is pre-Dengvaxia pa. It's a predisposition to be, suspicious. Now, what I think is the problem is that we just haven't given people enough science. You know what proportion of adults have finished junior high school? It's only 61%.
Yes. And it also doesn't help, Mr. Mangahas, on the messaging of the government. One says something, one says another thing, and two other officials
iba pa yan.
contradict
Iba pa
what
yan.
other officials say. And
Iba pa
this
yan.
doesn't
We do
help
not
with the
survey
education of
messaging.
our people on the science, which would help us make a intelligent decision if we want to have to be vaccinated or not.
Another thing I'll point out, because I'm going to report on this in July at the annual meeting of the National Academy of Science and Technology. And I'm going to point out there that our investment, part of GDP that goes to research and development is the smallest in the entire region. It's 0.16%. Indonesia does twice that much compared to us.
Right.
Singapore does the 1%. And the others, they do. Thailand is the 1%. Singapore is almost 2%. And we are only 0.16%. So we have very little familiarity
Right.
with research
Yeah.
and development.
Mr. Mangahas,
Mm.
Mr. Mangahas,
Yes.
my apologies. We'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but this is very interesting
Okay.
discussion that we've talked about on the final word. Thank you so much for
I'll
joining
report
us.
on this at the next meeting of the National Academy of Science and Technology.
And definitely
But
we
that's
will
in
have you
July.
back after you reveal your research. Mahar Mangahas from the Social Weather Stations.